Electric Ghost again, and we're live. And in this festival, we're doing different episodes or different sessions. In this session, we're going to do a little ad for our t-shirt. Everybody can see that we're wearing the Fam Electric Ghost t-shirt, and we're actually going to put the link up so you can actually get it. And we're going to run a little ad. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do an interview. We run an interview we did with Waterflower, and we'll get into that in a second. But we're going to actually help support the podcast with our t-shirt sales, and for help for the festival. You can see this design here, my daughter designed. That's the Peg Ghost symbol. And if you can see the back of the shirt, that's the back. When your mic can't hear me when the mic's back there. But we've got a couple of different designs, and we're going to run an ad in a second. But we're going to have an interview we did with Waterflower. He's a great artist that we've had on the show before. She's one of the first people to do one of the video interviews that we started to transition, and we came up with this idea to do this festival. Now tonight, to give people what's on the schedule, we played at 7 p.m. Fam Electric Ghost. Then we just had Angela Wright. We're going to have this Waterflower interview. Then we have the Australian band, The Safety Word, and they've given us a really good video. And then we've got Sarah Gibson coming up after that. We originally had her at 11:30. We're going to run her at 11:30. And then The Safety Word's going to go from 10 to 10:30. And then we might run some Peg videos in between. We've got some Peg YouTube videos we might run in between. So between 10:30 and 11:30, we're probably going to run a Peg video of what we've done before, maybe even what we just did. But we're probably going to run a performance. A couple of videos we put together, and we'll run that in between to give us something to have some additional content. So right now, we're going to actually run the t-shirt video, and we're going to put that up there right now. Actually showing off our new t-shirts, which are for sale, on a link we're going to provide on this little video ad. But we're doing the Peg Bedroom Producer Festival, and this shirt is the shirt that represents the festival, which can be on July 16th through 18th. And you can actually go on to the Fam Electric Ghost Facebook page and go to our Shopify store, and we've got a sweatshirt, and we've also got this version of the shirt with the Fam Electric Ghost logo. And then we've also got our multiple logos. This is our main, this is the represents the Peg brand, and this actual drawing here from my daughter represents Peg since 2016, since we founded the band. And you can see the back of the shirt here also has that. These shirts are going for about $25.03. And then there's the sweatshirts around $45, $47. All the proceeds go to support Peg, Fam Electric Ghost, in our mission to interview indie artists and give them an hour-long behind the music podcast that we either do as a audio podcast only on 11 platforms, including Spotify podcast and Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Overcast, Stitcher, many, many more. And then we also are doing the new thing through StreamYard. We do a live podcast that's video, and we're able to do some really cool things now that we'll just plug. We got the Zoom L8 mixer that allows us to actually bring in really high quality audio, have a really good mic, be able to actually bring a phone call into an interview, and we can also bring in people's music and actually EQ it out so it actually sounds really good. So again, check out Peg, Fam Electric Ghost on our Facebook, and we're gonna have the link to the actual Shopify store. Check out these awesome shirts. These are the shirts that just came in before the festival that we're doing on the 16th. We'd appreciate it if you check it out, and they come pretty fast. We ordered it. It took like less than a week to come within the U.S. And thank you very much. This is Peg. So we are back, and we've actually got the better link here. So the link you see below, you go to, https://found.e Fam Electric Ghost _merch shop. If you go to the merch shop, We'll get this mic in a better position. So we're getting ready. We're supposed to get our boom mic today, and we didn't come. So it was like, blame the male guys. And so yes, if you go to found.e Family Like the Ghost merch shop, we've got other versions of this shirt. Again, you can see it in its full glory. I'm wearing it, and you got the back logo, and then there's another version of this shirt which we'll do a little bit later. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go and pull up a different thing we did. I'm going to pull up a video we did from YouTube for like a ghost video. We like to bring up some of our ghost music in between, so we'll do that while we're waiting to do the podcast that we're going to push up. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're just going to get into that. But we encourage people to go and listen to Angela Wright, who just performed at Angela Wright Music. Go check her out. We've actually done interviews. If you check out the YouTube, you check out our Spotify podcast, we got about 33,000 listens on our audio podcast on Anchor FM and Spotify and Apple. It's on 11 platforms. And so we're happy to be on those platforms. It's a very cool thing to be podcasting. It's something we did as a producer, and we said, well, why would we spend time interviewing other people when we should push our own product or our own brand? But we decided to create this kind of community thing, and that's what this whole PEG thing is about, is to create a community where like-minded indie musicians have a place to play and talk to each other and collaborate, and that's what this is about. While I'm trying to find my page here, but yeah, we're gonna get into it pretty soon. We got the video. We just want to take a 5-minute video or something we just did. We have a brand new album that came out today too. To get everybody into it is Darlin's IV is the TV, so we're gonna get into that pretty soon. And so that's something that we're not pushing too big today, but we did put out a new record on Spotify and Apple Music. You can go check out Darlin's IV as the TV. We actually played it, and we'll play it again tomorrow. We played a version of it. It's actually not the same as the record, but that's kind of how we roll. We always do something a little bit different. So if I can get to where I was trying to get, yeah, here we go. It's always interesting when you're trying to do something on the fly. So I hope everybody, checks out the link there for the t-shirt. Again, the reason we're selling the t-shirt is to support the podcast, to get better mics, to get better cameras, better equipment. We've actually finally got a podcast mixer, whether or not it's up to snuff, it's like we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. But we're always hoping people will support the band. There's different ways to do it. You can go on our Spotify and hit the PayPal Me. You can go on the SoundCloud and do that if you look at Family Like the Ghost. And now we've got the t-shirts. So it's not just like, oh, give us money and we don't give you anything other than interview people for free, which is the whole point. We do these hour-long interviews with indie bands and we don't charge them. And so in order to increase the quality, have better computers and better everything to do this, it takes money to do this type of thing. So like any artist, you got to buy your guitar, you got to buy your stuff. So that is something that, every artist that's a musician knows what you put into it, the hours you put into it. And you hope that you're going to get some kind of payoff in the future, but you never know. It's just a different enterprise. I don't know if we're going to get into that video today. I'm trying to get it, but it's like giving me trouble. So let me see. Wanted to do that, but we could just do the interview. But I just wanted to get into one song, and it keeps on trying to get me into something else. Oh, it's like okay. You know what? We're going to go right into the podcast interview with Waterflower because that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it a little bit early so that we don't bounce into the next band that's coming up because we want to make sure that we give them time. So we're going to play the full interview from Waterflower. We're going to bring it up into the stream. This is it right here. And then I'm going to bow out. We're going to play this whole thing. thank you again for supporting the Ghost. We'll pull the merch shop out, and then we'll get going. We'll keep the link up for the Fam Electric Ghost links, because you can find out where we're playing. All the links there. If you go to those links there, you can find out our YouTube, our Twitch, all of our stuff is there, and the merch is there too. So we're gonna get into it right now.
This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live with Waterflower. We've interviewed you before, but now we're on our video podcast. So thank you for being on the program again.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here today and to speak to you face to face.
Yeah, it's a little different than what we've been doing for the last 2 years. We do like the audio podcast because it makes people kind of focus on like what you're saying rather than what you look like and how you perceive visually. But in the world where everything's like video, we kind of dove into it. So now we're doing the video versions. But we still do the audio. This is actually going to still be on Anchor FM.
Fantastic.
It'll still go out to like Apple and Spotify and all those other platforms. It just won't be simultaneously. It will go out there. So we're going to talk about your new single, Love, from your album. Maybe make sure I got this Balta Gaisma.
Yes, that's you pronounced it perfectly.
It's white light, right?
Yeah.
That sounds really cool. Because I mean, we talked to you before, and you've got this really kind of progressive, kind of experimental leanings in your music, which is where I kind of live and who I like to talk to among musicians that I interview. But I guess it's leaning toward more of a hyper pop, PC music, kind of 21st century pop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely exploring those things. I think even there, the newest song in progressive creation on the album was Zelta, which is actually the one that's most towards this kind of hyper pop sound. But overall, I would say it's so experimental.
That's a good thing.
It's a lot of different things at once, but I'm very much into hyperpop and EC music. So I hope people can hear that in there as well.
Yeah, well, we're going to go and play your video, so I'm going to cue it up. So I think it's on the full screen now. And then I'll mute your mic and then mute mine, and then we'll get into this. And then we'll talk about it on the back end of the video.
With warmth you can take me, and satisfied longings. With kisses you break me, to make our beginning. This love that we found, our own dimension. This is crystal pure sound, our own invention. With warmth you can take me, and satisfied longings. With kisses you break me, that we found our own dimension. Since we still hear the sound, our own invention.
So that's the Love video, the official video. I'll take you off mute now, and we get both back on. So that's really, I like the imagery. It kind of reminded me, I don't know, of the Smashing Pumpkins Tonight's the Night video.
Oh, I don't think I know that.
Yeah, back in the 90s, they did this video that had, it had this idea of the moon, and they were kind of, they had kind of cut out things that you had in the video. It's not the same look, but they had some elements that were somewhat similar. But that was experimental at the time too, like progressive grunge. But,
Yep.
But what it kind of reminded me of Kate Bush and Tori Amos, Laurie Anderson. You got that vibe, and I like the kind of down tempo, kind of a lot of things today are so kind of into this kind of club beat, and I find it's really cool when you actually slow down the tempo and then you can bring other elements in, and that song gets kind of really in that space.
Yeah, that song was quite interesting because it was the only song I started by looping some violin, just recording it on my loop station. And then gradually that became a song which I played live now and again, but it was always a bit complicated because I've played violin since I was small, but not that much. And so it was always a challenge. And at one point in the studio, I was once we recorded this bass loop that I'd always done, I took it home and just produced the hell out of it and added so many things and so many layers. And also my partner Richard from this project, Lost Harbors, he played some guitar on it, which you can just about hear. And then
it's kind of like a shadow guitar track. Like it's really light. I kind of hear it in my headphones.
Yeah, it's just there's so many parts because I just went crazy with various layers because I love like orchestral instrumentation, and obviously it's all built digitally except for the violin and the guitar. Everything else is just built from VSTs.
But you got that kind of like Phil Spector wall of sound, but you got it in a real subtle way. Like if you listen to like Phil Spector, his stuff is like really kind of overwhelming. It's like there's so much there that you're trying to kind of deconstruct it. But what you've done here is like, I know that you've got all these layers, but it's more subtle, and it's not like totally in your face, but it's like it's a little down tempo. It's experimental. You can feel the experimental groove, and then the video really shows that too. And I mean, we can talk about how that got produced, but the song, we'll focus on the song for now. I like the feel of it. It's really kind of where this space I've always talked to people about, like if you slow the BPM down, if you kind of go there with the layers of the synthesis, and then you've got kind of like this newfound thing where you brought in the violin, and then so you actually played that violin yourself?
Yeah, I did.
That's cool.
And I really like building chords with various different instruments. Let's say that each instrument just plays a melody part of that chord, and that's how I fill the space with so many different sounds. So if each instrument is just playing a mono melody, then together they kind of come together as this chord-like sound.
Kind of like what I do with my modes, my monophonic modes. Instead of going on a polyphonic synth, I'll go and like layer different one note capabilities, because like the monophonic nature of it sometimes is more powerful than even the chord. And if you take a bunch of them and layer them, it's kind of what you had to do before polyphonic synths. But I kind of like the limitation of doing that, because then it's harder to do it, and it's not as easy. You know, to get going to VST and do that. But like if you take a hardware mode and do that, it ends up, but it's kind of satisfying. I get the idea. So when you actually did the basic demo for this, what did that sound like? What was that? What was it?
The demo was quite spacious because it was all about these plucks of the violin, the basic rhythm that's still there. And I wasn't planning on filling it up too much, but I just wanted to make it a little bit thicker. And and then many things happened in the middle and ended up being quite thick and probably not that easy to mix. But I really love the
Everybody liked it.
well, actually, I have a really good working relationship with the guy who mixed the album, and I actually recorded the vocals in his studio as well. And actually, he won an award for Producer of the Year in all of Latvia this year, like just some weeks ago. And
for this work or other work?
No, like he works with so many different projects and a lot of experimental music as well. And
Recording engineer that has your concept in mind, that does know that go and kind of like sometimes you run hear stories and ask engineers like they didn't understand Hendrix, or they didn't understand like your Gabriel, and they would go and like change their intention is, and they go back, and it's like no, that's a land.
That's a tough one. That's a really tough because the way I always like understand the good intentions, and I'm ready to hear them out. And but let's say I just don't pick to work hear me out as well. Won't hear me out as well.
Well, that's the whole reason kind of in this indie space is that, you know, the reason why we do that because we have a vision. And some people maybe don't have this full vision and need to get molded. But I think people like yourself who have really you have a core idea what you want people to on your team, want people to on your team players, their team from that point of view.
It's just so much more interesting if a person has something to say. I think it's so much more interesting to let them just get on with it. People help, people need to work with each other. But because someone understands something, it doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to change.
Well, sometimes there's like standard recording practices. People who are more innovative break rules. Do that, or you shouldn't. That timing, you shouldn't have this kind of arrangement. It's when you're in an experimental space, you get more traditional. All they'll do is and they hear that's not what I'm used to. That's not what I'm used to. And they don't say, well, I don't want it to sound I don't want it to sound like Zeppelin. I want it to sound more ethereal. I want it to sound more ethereal. It's going to be going for like Yes or Pink Floyd, or it's going to have that kind of layered expansive idea. I mean, the whole idea. I bring up expansive sound is because I don't like limitations. And a lot of people I've been talking to. Seems like you're in that space that you mix all kinds of things, like acoustic, like violin, sampling, granular synthesis. Everything that you do is really like cutting edge, want to be where you want to be. to me. You're music, but everybody has their niche. Everybody has a niche. Everybody has a niche. There's always things that are cool in every genre. So I mean, I talk to multiple genres all the time. But it was interesting. I was reading your latest bio. You actually met Brian Eno, who is a big hero of mine.
That was so unreal.
Yeah,
That was so unreal. I can't even. It was real. It was real now. It just so happened that he had an exhibition opening in Riga, and for some reason, I don't know why, it wasn't well advertised. And I found out about it because a friend of mine took a photo and put a poster and put it on Instagram, and yeah, and it was like the opening party wasn't actually publicly announced, but I had an inkling what time it would be based on previous experience. And I called up a curator and I was like, look, can I get in? And then it turned out that
So I'm back. I don't know what happened to the video. I don't know if we're having an interruption. We had a storm coming through, so that's kind of a pain. So we'll see if we can get that queued back up. Yeah, it just keeps on rolling. Let's see if we can start it again. Because it was going pretty well until, I don't know if a storm came in or what the heck is going on here. So let's stop and start it again. I don't know what happened. This is what happens when you try to do stuff live. I don't know. So let's check it again. See if we can run something else. See, maybe we'll just run well, I'm going to try something else. So hold a second. This is disappointing. So the next couple of things we have going, but I don't know what happened here. See if we can bring up a different video. So that's can't control a thunderstorm coming in, but I really want to play that video. So let's see if we can get back to it.
A violin sample.
Okay, we're going to go back probably back to this point and start it again. So hold a second. We can get this back up because it's a very good interview, and I hate to see, I don't know why that happened, but you know, the storm comes rolling and you can't control stuff. Okay, so we've got it coming back.
Rob, if I ever met, I did get to see Prince at Paisley Park one time, and that was just a total like relevant. Is this to see him in his own house and feel to be comfortable? He was just playing like a 3-piece band, like a power trio. And he wasn't doing any of his hits. He was just playing like blues.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, that's the kind of thing I wanted to see. Like everybody wants to see Purple Rain, but I actually wanted to see him do something that he just felt happy with, and playing like fuzzed out blues, like the Hendrix experience. That's kind of what I always thought he could do, and he does. You see glimpses of it, but to actually see that for live was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that was pretty crazy.
I googled that Smashing Pumpkins music video, and Google Images came up with some interesting GIFs, and I can totally see what you were saying about the Love music video.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It's not. It's not. It's not like you have a different like take on it, but it's like somewhat in the same space, which
something.
Cool.
It's happening in the sky, and it's
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
but
just, yeah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up the fact that the music video for Love was made entirely at home.
Oh, you did that at home?
Yeah.
With a lot of like technical gear to like do it like through the
not
computer, or was it done like a
a pen and a scanner and a camera and some lights and some green fabric.
That's really cool. I mean, I like it. I think it's cool. I mean, I think it has a really cool feel.
I'm really, really actually proud of that video because any project which I've done like from A to Z on my own, it's always quite a hassle to stay focused and, you know, to keep on going until you reach the finish line. And this is one of the ones where I did it. So
Well, it's cool that you took you have the whole song you did yourself, you know, and then you did this video. So you kind of got that kind of Laurie Anderson kind of complete artist concept, you know, like Andy Warhol. I mean, I was
that way.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of like what Warhol was doing with the Velvets underground. He used to have these big happenings, and the Velvets would be there, actors would be there, you know, poets and models, and then he'd be running his like visual paintings behind the band or films around the band, and it was just very artistic, and it's cool to see when there's this kind of synthesis of art and video and music, and you're kind of pulling all that together. And that's really, to me, that's the whole picture of an artist, is like how you come off as like your stagecraft. And that video kind of shows your stagecraft and gives you like the visual input to like how your perspective on the song. And it's just cool to have it coming all from you rather than some video director that interpreted you and created it. Not that that's not cool, but it's cool that you get your artist vision.
Yeah, no, it's a language, visual. At least the way I use my visuals is it's totally a language. And I feel like when you listen to Waterflower, or when someone listens to Waterflower, they really are only getting part of the whole thing. Like whenever I perform, I spend a lot of energy also repairing the visual parts, and it's part of the performance. Like the way I work. It's not like the music is there for people to put on repeat on some playlist in the background. It's an art piece itself that is audiovisual. So
that
I
goes
really like it when people get to experience these two things together.
That kind of goes toward your album, because we're in such an age where it's like the single and the Spotify playlist or whatever playlist. But the idea of White Light or Balta Gaisma, is that like a concept album, or does every song kind of feel like it fits within this project?
It's not exactly a concept album. It is an album. Like, I mean, like, I was touring a lot before COVID, like loads around Europe, and I was hoping to get to the next step and go further as well. But all these songs were basically created and toured for about 5 years. Yeah. And so they changed over that period. I mean, some are older, some are newer. And that's just like the ones which stuck with me the longest, and that I felt needed to be
so it was kind of like your set list. Was it like your performance list became your album?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because sometimes that happens with a band. Like you go out and you start developing like a set list because you got to play like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, depending on what type of gig you're doing. And then you start to build like a show. And you know, and if you're a new band and you don't have a full album yet, that show tends to become your album. You know.
Yeah. No, I mean there are loads more songs that didn't make it to this album, and there are actually a couple which I'm just holding back until special moment.
The next one, so the next project.
And but yeah, I really felt how the songs changed whilst performing them live to different people in different countries, because I just got to test them out on real people and see how real people reacted and what they resonated with. And I've always tried to connect with the audience in some way. I mean, obviously all this is very, very, can be very overwhelming also, and it's a big visual woo, and the sounds are all weird and everything's weird. But I do really actually care for my audience and connecting with them. And the moment I see that they're getting that or they're not getting that of the song, then next time round I do work at it, make mental notes. So they have changed. And the weirdest thing is that some of the melodies have slightly changed. Like I found some old demos of some of the songs, and I was like, totally sure I've always been singing it the same, and in the demo it's slightly different. And I'm like,
Well, that
what?
seems it's weird. It's like the labs. Like when you go to play in front of an audience, like what worked in the studio, then suddenly for live performance, suddenly the song changes to make it actually work. And then you kind of, it's like a laboratory. You get into social feedback, and then you feel like, okay, when I perform this, I have to kind of do it like this because this is how the people will receive it. And when you're in the studio, you're kind of like it's an audience of one or a couple, 4 or 5 people, and you've got one vibe, and you're kind of going for a different feel to me on studio recordings versus what you do live. Yeah, and then it ends up being emerging. It's like, okay, what can I, how, because some bands are like, oh, okay, I got to try to make us sound more like our live performance in the studio. And then other bands are like, I don't actually want to sound like I do live. I want to sound like something I can't do live. You know, because sometimes you make the album such a way it's so difficult to play live that the live version never matches the studio version because you can't actually do it. Do you ever find that kind of problem? Like with some of your songs, is it too hard to actually do it exactly as you recorded it, and you have like a studio performance versus a live performance version?
Well, I'm a little bit far removed from all that now, so I'm struggling to answer that question. It's just, you know,
because nobody's been able to be out there for a while.
But generally, working with a loop station means I can separate the songs into different parts and play only some bits live, but then have the parts of the songs prepared, let's say, smartly. So if I need a certain part to be extended or switch quicker, I can do that.
But he's modern.
I couldn't play all the electronics live. It would just not be possible.
Yeah, it's difficult because, you know, I'm a one-person project myself, and I use a lot of, like, I kind of handicap myself with all these analog sequencers. So I've got all these analog sequencers kind of timed off of each other. And then like so I don't have the luxury like a loop station. I'm kind of like I kind of free and controlled because I'm controlled by what the limitations of the analog equipment. But then the analog equipment can kind of go off on its own in some ways. Like if I change the rate of the LFO or I change an envelope and it's triggering something else, it gives me something unexpected, and then I can kind of like a jazz musician kind of flow with it. Or I can just run it like, okay, I can run it off. I use hardware recorders instead of like loop stations. So I'll have like Alexandro Cortini, Alexandro Cortini from Nine Inch Nails. He had a habit of using like Tascams and then muting and unmuting hardware Tascams, tape recorders on stage with Nine Inch Nails. And I saw him like, and I kind of been copying that technique in that you have a controlled, you can keep your song the same as you recorded it because you have the original master, but then you can mute and unmute and then change it by doing that, or even run that output into something that changes it by running it through effect pedals or something. And then in that way, you can have like this live performance that could be stable or unstable or change wherever you want, but it's not on a computer. It's all like hardware.
No, that's amazing. And I know some people who actually my dad's starting to do electronic music again. He used to be in a synth pop band when he was younger,
like a new wave band, like a new romantic band.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah, Depeche Mode. Yeah.
And I saw that he's recently he got what was it? It was some sort. It was this really new thing where you could sequence several analog MIDI instruments all at once. Like he does the thing that you're saying.
Yeah. That's what I like hardware sequencers because run off the different clocks, and it's a little tricky, but it's like I think the whole beauty of it is like you dive into it down a rabbit hole. You just like if you get into a model like any kind of analog equipment. it ends up being a big rabbit hole because like you could spend like a couple hours just, oh, where's this going? Where's this going? Where's this going? And you just keep on going down the hole, and somebody knocks on the door. It's like you've been in there for like 5 hours on one thing. It's like,
Oh, this
okay,
is awesome,
but it's like maybe I should go faster, but I don't want to. But so like with Love, how long did that take to compose? And is that something that took over a long period of time, or was it something that came to you kind of quickly?
I didn't have a time limit, so
Yes, I mean, not that I'm trying to put it. I'm just wondering because some songs take months to create, and some songs kind of just happen. Just wondering, like, because it seemed like you were layering it, so that must have been over time you were doing that.
yeah, no, the whole album, it kind of just happened, and Love included. And I started with the violin, and then I recorded some lo-fi open board synths in the loop station as well. And then I was like, oh, what should I do? And I was staying somewhere where there was a piano, and I set my little Zoom up and I recorded some more piano loops. Oh, so there is another analog instrument. There's piano. Yes.
Yeah, I actually have piano off of like a field recorder, like a Zoom field recorder, and you picked it up.
Yeah, just a Zoom H1 because it's got really nice
Yeah, the mics are good on that.
Yeah. So I just recorded some loops on that, and that became that basis of the song. And that was, gosh, I think that was in 2017 or 2018. And then in the studio, did that, and then spent another few weeks thinking about it and doing it on and off. So I'm not sure how long the song itself actually took to make, but I've drawn out the process because I do prefer to put things aside and revisit them again later, because I find that if I try and do everything all at once, everything ends up sounding like the same song. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good thing. I mean, I kind of was watching Frank Zappa documentary, and he had this habit of like taping everything he ever did. So when they would go out and tour, he had all these reel-to-reels, and they'd go home. His wife would say he'd come home, and he'd have all these reels on the floor, and they from different projects, and he would start splicing them. And he's like, "Well, here's some live stuff I did. Here's a studio I did," and then he just sit there with his headphones and say, "Okay, this works with this project. This works." And he had things into like project lanes, and then he would start cutting them and say, "Oh, this little piece from this tape actually goes better with this," and then he start bouncing them around. And that's kind of a cool thing to do. I think Neil Young used to do that too with Crazy Horse. They used to do these big reels and then go back and listen and then move things around.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. I used to, when I started out, I would spend like a couple of days just recording things, including lots of household objects, and like just finding whatever I could that made a weird sound. And then another day I'd cut up the samples and build like my own little sample libraries where the names were understandable and so on. And then later, when I felt like it, I would create songs out of them. And very much the lyrics also get collected in that same sort of way, that I just write them down. And when it's time to put stuff together, something just matches.
Do you have like a diary or a journal for your lyrics? Do you like formally keep them in like a book, or do you kind of go all over the place with different like pads of paper here and there?
Yeah, it used to be pads of paper, and then I realized that doesn't work because it can get lost, and that's sad. And now I just use my notes on my phone, and then I know it's always connected to the cloud. So if I'll never lose it now.
Yeah.
You can search for the keywords, like I want to make a song about this. Have I ever written anything on this theme? Oh yes. Oh look, that's perfect. Something like
it's
that.
cool to use like OneNote or notes on your phone or whatever. Whatever note you do. I started to do that as well. I started using like Word and Doc, and just so I could go and get it wherever I was, like whatever device I was on, I can just jump on it and then like, oh, there it is. And just like you're saying, doing a keyword search for something because I couldn't remember what I called it.
Yeah, that as well. I've learned that. I'm still trying to learn that, to like name things in names that are understandable. And one of the worst things is like a project always has a work in progress name, which has got nothing to do with the end title.
Oh yeah, so your original name is like, so like I do that with song titles. I'll have something I did, and then I'll make like 10 versions of it. Each one of them's got a different name, and then I can't remember which one I like better. After, like, if I go back and like I saved like 6 variations, and then it's like, which one was the one I thought was the good one? Like, oh man, now I gotta go back and listen to all of them. Which I guess is not a bad thing, to go back into your archive and listen to what you were doing, because I think that it's like, I find that if I go back in my archive like 5 years ago or 2 months ago, like if I go back, I find stuff that's like I didn't think worked, but now where my head's at now, it works. And then it's like, oh yeah, I can work on that. And you know, it's just weird how that happens. Sometimes it's like something like wasn't working, and then you got something new, and then now suddenly that works with what you're doing. And then you're kind of like, oh, you know, it's like, I think all songwriters find that, you know, they find a lyric and they can't get the hook, or they can't get the one section. They leave it alone, and then suddenly they come back to it, and it has like an epiphany. It's like the muse comes in, and they're like, "Oh, now I got it," you know?
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, I heard like Greg Allman with like the famous song "Melissa." He had it for years, but he didn't have a big part of the song was missing, and he just couldn't figure it out. And in fact, it was the lyrics Melissa. He didn't know what name of the woman he wanted to be in the song.
Aha.
And then there was a whole section he didn't have because he hadn't finalized who the woman character in the song should be. And then suddenly he just had this epiphany. I guess he met somebody that he knew, and he's like, okay, that's gonna be it. And they suddenly finished it, and it was sitting on the shelf for like 3-4 years. And you never know how things happen. Like something triggers something, and then boom.
Yeah, no, I really feel that art shouldn't be overworked. And I mean, because I feel like a lot of work is always gonna put into finishing something. And I'm quite I quite think that like things should get finished, you know, things should get rounded off and finished off nicely. But when it comes to the actual idea and so on, like, and fixing things, working things out, I really feel that should be done in a playful and light way. And that's another reason why I'm ready to just put stuff aside for a while. And I don't mind putting it aside for a very long time. And this is sometimes a problem when I look with other people.
But you had the song that you actually attached capacitive synths to plants. I guess I called Palm versus Palm. Can you talk about that?
Yes. That one was quite interesting to do. It also has a music video, and the music video includes actual footage from the recording process. Like I set up like a pretty crazy looking thing in my living room, and just filmed myself recording the samples. And then I took that footage together with the audio and put it into Ableton, and then cut up that. And the way Ableton works is that you can it keeps the link to the video footage when you cut up the audio and just work with the audio. So once I came up with a composition out of the bits of plant, bits of palm tree that I'd recorded, then I went and filmed extra footage to fill in all the black blanks where there was no palm trees. So I don't think it's very easy to understand which bits were recorded done before and which bits were done after, because it's I think I merged it pretty well.
Well, that's cool. I like the way your creative process, and I mean even the idea of using the plants. You know, that's pretty cool to take that. Where did you get that idea? Like on your own? Is that something you had looked up, or somebody had told you to try, or is that you were just experimenting and you figured it out?
years ago, 6 years ago, I wanted to get a small synth because I was really into having lots of little gadgets. And back then, I didn't have a loop station. I just had a looper, 2 loopers, and lots of little gadgets. So I wanted another small synth. And a friend showed me like some sort of like 15 Kickstarter synths you need.
Oh, like
One,
really, those are cool to get. I like to get it like these really one-off type ones.
yeah,
Those are cool
and
to have.
this is actually the one I was using originally, the first one, because I got carried away with it after. But the first one I was using was called it, well, I still have it, a Dentaku Ototo, and it's out of production now. But that's the capacitive synth. And it was advertised to be played with, fruits and vegetables, and a bit like a makey, if you've heard of that.
Yeah. I think there's a new one from like Noise called the Strega that actually you can actually take like organic material and it's got like touch, like it's like a bukla. So to actually interface with it are like not, it's like bukla type keys where they're like solid state little capacitive things that you can throw organic material on, like your fingers, where you could take like a piece of like a vegetable, like a red pepper.
Exactly.
You could take a red pepper and then connect it from one thing to the next, and it actually does a lot of weird noise. I mean, it has like a karaoke delay, analog delay built into it, and so it tends to do a lot of weird stuff with noise, like white, pink, brown, blue, all types of noise.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah,
noisy peppers. I like that.
Even noisy peppers. That could be a good album. You can have that one.
Yeah, but anyway, like I think it was advertised on bananas and apples or whatever, and but for some reason when I saw that I was like, wait a minute, plants. Just the moment I saw it, I knew that I'm going to get it in order to play plants on stage, and it just came to me, and I was like, every venue has plants. I can find plants, and I can play
you can use them.
Yeah, and
that's cool.
That's and I ordered it, and then I mean it took a while for me to get to work it properly because it's a bit temperamental.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually after about half a year and various different experiments of also doing like capacitive drawing, like drawing a drawing and making that make sounds through it and stuff like that, or I also did like capacitive scissors for one performance where I had like various different scissors connected to each key. So the scissor I was cutting with was
that's awesome. That's the kind of thing I like. It's like kind of like I said, like what Warhol used to do, and what like the mothers of invention used to do. In these big happenings, they had all these artists that would show up and do like I don't know, like
performance art.
Yeah, it's like Laurie Anderson again. I keep on mentioning her, but one thing I was noticing, you also got like best experimental music album and best album design nominated with this the Zelta Mikrofons Award.
That's the annual Latvian Music Awards. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got 2 nominations, which is amazing. It's the first time I've entered into that prize, and yay, that was just amazing. And I just really am feeling really happy that once again I get to be audiovisual.
Yeah, it just seems like I would love to see like a show, like when you were gonna be like going worldwide. You were gonna come to New York, you were gonna go like London, you were gonna go like a big tour.
I was gonna tour loads, yeah. I mean, I was touring all the time.
You had already been doing it. You just kind of got put off because of the COVID.
Yeah. There was. I was just when all this started. It was. I was supposed to do an Asian tour.
Oh wow! You're gonna go to like Seoul and Tokyo, maybe.
Oh, it was like more experimental through someone I met online. But it was supposed to be Indonesia, Malaysia, Nepal, and Taiwan.
That's cool. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And usually everybody's going like what I just said, but to do the other places is probably, that's kind of cool if you're coming. Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to that. That's kind of cool. Because I was actually in the city. Yeah, I was had a booking agent just when this thing happened, and I had a booking agent that could get me to like Berlin and London, and then suddenly, oh, you can't go.
Yeah.
So I just doubled down on podcasting.
Yeah, no, lots of things have stopped, and it's so honestly, it's unclear when it's going to go back to anything again. So, and at first I tried loads of live streaming, and I think at some point I will do some more live streams, but I kind of first wave.
You used to do that a lot. I remember when I talked to you before. Didn't you do that when we talked last time? You had been doing live streaming, hadn't you?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were. But I mean, the thing about live streaming, I guess, other with people, the feedback I get from artists is like you need the artists love to connect with the audience.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're doing a live streaming, you kind of got to get in a zone where you kind of get into like a trance state because you're into what you're doing. And then that can be cool. But if you're the type of artist that kind of really needs the audience to get there, then it's difficult to kind of do a cool performance if you can't kind of work yourself into a fever state to be dynamic enough to make it interesting.
Yeah, totally. And like before at gigs, it was enough for people just to simply show up. And now after any live stream performance, I always was like, well, is that it? Like I felt like I just wish people would comment on live stream videos because you can't see their faces. And as I said, before it'd be enough for them to simply turn up, but now
it would be cool if on their phone they could jump on like a 10, 20 person call and actually quick Q&A the artist, which maybe in some situations that'd be cool. And maybe some situations it wouldn't.
It's just weird afterwards. Like you build up this huge, well, not huge, but in my case, I build up a visual something and a sound something. And then once you're done, it's like, okay, that's it, I guess.
Yeah,
I should just
go and come down. He goes from like 100 down to 0.
Back down.
Yeah, you go from like 100 to 0.
After a real gig, I go and talk to people always. And I have a lovely evening talking to whomever I've met for the first time, and it's just really nice. And yeah,
that's the whole thing. I mean, I think artists are about community, and it includes the fans and the bloggers and the press and anybody who's there. And so it's just when you're not on the road. Like I used to go to Boston and New York because of where I am in New Hampshire, people don't get the type of music I do. So I have to always go outside of my own town. I can't really play in my hometown. But it's when you go to New York, it's just so much is like going on. Like you show up in a small club, 300, 400 people, and usually there's a lot of people who are into experimental music. They're into the type of music I'm doing. I go to the venues where people are looking for that.
Yeah.
And that is just so cool. I mean, as an artist, I get it. You end up going to a diner where you talk to a blogger, talk to some other people that are like really core fans. Like a real hardcore fan is like that's always at all the shows and so okay, let's go hang out. And it's cool when you can do that and you can trust the situation where you don't feel like it's uncomfortable or it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and like for all experimental music, it's not meant for everyone. It's weird to say that, but it really isn't. It's meant for people who enjoy that kind of experimentation, and that's one of the reasons why it is so important to find the audience as an experimental musician. Like you have to travel to the people.
Yeah, you have to go where the scene is. Like, what we do, people in Berlin appreciate it. There's certain scenes that are really into it. Like, some places in Tokyo, you could do what I'm doing. In some places, like in San Francisco, I could get a pretty good audience. It's just you kind of know the scene. Where are people doing like modular synthesis where there's guys on Euro racks for like doing like 20 minutes straight on like one kind of drone or whatever, and people are into it. And so, okay, that's the kind of place where you could go, and maybe they've got a screen and they're running their visuals, and they have some actors on stage acting things out. It's like, well, yeah, that's the kind of scene I want to go into.
Yeah.
So I look for that. It's like, where are there film students? Where are there like experimental musicians? And that wherever that scene is, that's where, okay, I'll be there. Because that's where it's happening. I think that's why I do this podcast, is within the group of people, multiple genres that are trying to get folks who don't just want to hear one song on a playlist, or you're one of 20 artists on a playlist. They actually want to listen to Waterflower, like everything you do, right? So the kind of old kind of school fan that will go get a vinyl or get a CD and sit down and listen to every song, and then write to you, to your fan club, or be somebody writing to your newsletter back when people used to get fanzines and stuff. It's like that's the kind of fan I like to engage. They will actually buy the vinyl. That will show up and buy the cassette. They'll buy the T-shirt. That will show up with like 4 shows in a row, because that's what they're into. Because that's what I do. I mean, I would go see Parliament Funkadelic 3 times. If they played like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I see them like every night. Because the way they were, is like they play differently every night. And so that's why I wanted to see them. I didn't want to see them running the same thing on a CDJ exactly the same way they did it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Not that that's bad, and not that everybody does that. People change things, but it's just I kind of into the kind of flowing kind of jazz improvisation of like progressive music. That's what I like. But I think there's a certain type of fan that's into that. Like you said, it's like it's not every fan that's into that, and you find the ones who want to be in that kind of experience.
Yeah, for sure. And when I'm finding that little group, that little niche of people in every town or city that I tour in, has been really amazing. And kind of in some ways there are good aspects of being in this current situation as well, because I feel that in some ways, instead of reaching out to just the people that we could meet going outside in the community, like suddenly everybody is a potential to reach out to. And I've been having interesting online connections and conversations, and like this one, and that I don't think would really have existed before then. I mean, it would have felt like something somehow further away, just by the fact that it's not like,
well, it's cool that I can talk to
world.
that I can talk to you in Latvia, through this technology. And the fact that like most of the musicians I talk to are like outside the US, I find people like in the Netherlands and Finland, Iceland, everywhere. And what's really cool is this, the ability, like you said, like a lot of times when you're an experimental artist, somebody shows up to the show and they're another producer, they're another artist, and then you end up getting a connection, and then you end up working with them. I mean, I've ended up like from this podcast, I've done collaborations. I've actually ended up doing projects where somebody comes like and say, what, I really kind of like what Peg's doing. Is like, can we kind of do something? And I've had like 3 different projects that came out of interviews from this podcast, and dealt with people from all around the world. And I think that's the whole idea of music, is to have a community and to do that. And usually musicians, like we kind of go see other musicians. We become fans of other musicians, and we just, okay, that's because when I listen to your work, it gives me ideas. It's like, okay, that's a different way to look at that, a different way to produce. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I think we absorb what we hear, and sometimes it just comes out when I'm playing. I might pull like a Coltrane phrase, or I might pull like a Funky Buried in Whirl like chord progression, just because it was in my head, and I just I didn't mean to do it, but it just comes out, because we kind of are who our influences are.
For sure. Yeah, look, actually, speaking of that, I mean, that happens to all of us, and I think that's really cool. And I like identifying it as well when it happens. I mean, that's a new stuff that no one's heard yet. I like identifying when a melody sounds similar to something a certain other band would do, and then I decide to go all the way and find a similar instrument, and it's I make sure it's a different melody, but I'm like, oh, then the people who like that band will know.
Yeah, they'll know. Yeah. Well, I think it's like all music. Like if you think about the blues, it's kind of like Lead Belly and Robert Johnson. They're in the kind of same space. They're all kind of within that genre. They're kind of bouncing off each other. So it's certain, like if you get into like, bebop jazz, there's a certain form, and all the bands that do that form are going to be in that space. So they're kind of like all influencing each other. The same thing with like different types of electronic music. There's certain people that were iconic in it, or certain people were kind of like the standard bearers of that form. And then you're going to pull it in. You're going to pull in some Joy Division. You might pull in some New Order, some Depeche Mode. You might, some Cure, like Echo and the Bunnymen, any of the bands that you hear. I grew up listening to so much of this stuff. It just kind of bounces in and out of my head.
It does. It does. And well, I mean, that's a totally different theme, but like recently I've been teaching my parrot various melodies, and he's come up with totally new songs. He's learned human notes now, and
wow.
I find that really inspiring, that the way he even takes like a melody and
he reinterprets it. Yeah, he has his own.
comes up with a new song. It's great having a little non-human musician at home.
I had a little parakeet. She passed on. I had two of them, and they would pick up sometimes stuff I did on my keyboard. When I actually she would actually pick up things and actually do it. And I never knew why she would pick certain phrases over other ones. She just like decided like I like that one. So what's the cool band? Her name was Vanity. I was like, oh wow, it's like Vanity. Like, why do you like that one? I was like, I don't know. She just like, you didn't like this one, but you like that one. It's like, okay, that's what she liked.
That's really cute, and it's so cool. Yeah, also like having birds at home whilst making music. I also do feel that. I feel like if the bird is impressed, then I'm happy.
Yeah, you got something. Like if Vanity likes it, then I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if she digs it, then that's pretty cool. So I should keep on working on that. They actually did that a couple of times, but
yeah, I'm also guilty of that. Yeah.
But it's great having you on the podcast again. And like I said, we're gonna push this out. We have been live on YouTube and Twitch and our Facebook channel, so that's cool. And they're gonna stay permanently on those channels. And we'll send you the links if we'll send you the links to where they are. We also, like I said, we'll do the audio version, and that'll take a little bit for that, with an hour or two for those to have actually happen. But anytime, are you actually working on your next project? You said you had stuff that was kind of left over, or so is it going to translate into another project? Or are you going to kind of push this project for the most of this year? Or should we expect like another Waterflower album?
Well, I have a song that I'm currently working on where I went and recorded snowdrops, like wild snowdrops.
Oh, field recording, cool.
Yeah, like, but this time I used I recorded I recorded MIDI from them. So using a MIDI sprout.
Oh, MIDI information. So the rhythm of them, the pattern coming. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like
and
that.
I also had some friends, my friend director Lima, come and film me doing that as well, like as a hope
awesome.
to try and make it more understandable, that like to connect that this sound came from plant. And
it's down here for snow.
So that I'm currently working on, and I have kind of like a deadline to finish it ASAP whilst it doesn't turn into full-blown spring here.
So that would just be like a single with a video release.
Yeah, yeah. And then after that, I have a I'm planning to release another single from the same album.
Okay, sorry about that. So that interview was going well. It was very much maybe only 5 minutes left to that interview with Waterflower, but we have to get ready for the next performance tonight. It's from the Safety Word, and they're going to talk about. They were going to actually be live, but then there's a lockdown in Australia, so they provided a video, and we're going to get into that. So we're going to end this broadcast and open up the next one, where it'll be back in like less than 5 minutes.